to Mysteries and Mimosas, and thank you for listening. I'm Max, and with me, as usual, is my co-host and my wife, Aria.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Mystery Monday. Every Monday, we like to give you a short episode on a case that isn't widely covered. The hope is to bring awareness to those cases that aren't widely publicized.
And don't forget, you can find us on Instagram at Mysteries and Mimosas Podcast. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.
Also, if you want to help us out, please rate us 5 stars and subscribe to our podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't done, but I'm glad you interrupted me. But yes, you can do those things. You can share our podcast with all your friends. I was going to say I'm on Discord, but I forgot you told me I'm not allowed to mention that anymore.
I may have said that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
It sounds like something I would say.
Yeah,
Okay.
It does. Anyway.
So today's case is such a weird mystery out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, home to the military installation Fort Liberty, formerly Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg was officially renamed Fort Liberty in 2022. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Learning something today. Fayetteville has many nicknames to include America's Can-Do City and the Soldier City. Fayetteville has received the All-America City Award from the National Civic League 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Fayetteville is the 6th most populous city in North Carolina with a population of 208,501 people as of the 2020 census.
Oh, it's kind of big.
Mm-hmm. So our story today begins in 2011 when a woman by the name of Avante Deven adopted a girl named London in Buncombe County. Avante then adopted a boy named Blake in neighboring Madison County in 2013. There's very little information available related to the adoptions because those records are sealed once they're finalized in North Carolina.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of info out there. But an article in the Fayetteville Observer mentions that Avante Deven divorced her husband in 2006, and they shared no property or children. Then, the following year, in 2007, the North Carolina Division of Non-Public Education indicates that a homeschool by the name of Deven Academy was opened in Buncombe County.
So she just opened her own school?
It seems like it. I don't know of any other children she had at the time or anything, so I'm not sure why she started the
or who
homeschool.
Attended or
yeah,
right.
Doesn't give any of that information. But since that time, Deven Academy has had several changes of address and phone numbers in both Madison and Buncombe counties. According to a news conference held in April by the chief of police in Fayetteville, Kimberly Braden, the Deven family moved to the Fayetteville area in 2015, and there's no indication that either Blake or London ever attended a public school in Cumberland County.
Okay, so if she adopted... I'm just thinking, if she adopted Blake in 2011...
No, in
2013. In 2013, and London in 2011, but they didn't move to North Carolina until 2015. I wonder what state they were adopted from.
Well, I don't think they moved to a different state. They just moved to Fayetteville.
Oh, okay.
From Buncombe County.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, they were living in Buncombe County and Madison County, and then in 2015 they came over to Cumberland County, which is Fayetteville.
Oh, okay. So presumably these children were adopted in North Carolina.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why those there's not a lot of information because records are sealed in North Carolina when the adoptions are finalized.
Okay,
so
I'm tracking.
Yeah, so I think it all happened in North Carolina, just in different counties.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So in 2019, Deven's LLC, Nelson and Johnson, purchased a home on Berrydale Drive in Fayetteville. Avante Deven is said to still reside at this address. Nelson and Johnson LLC is registered in New Mexico and was established there in 2016. The business purpose is listed as gatherings for various artist showings and book sharing/readings, no selling entailed. The mailing address for the company is listed in Sedona, Arizona, and notes that any correspondence should be made in the care of a David Novick.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, so I don't know what all of this
LLC is
means.
Well, it seems like it's some sort of artist showing or something to do with art. And New Mexico, I mean, depending on where this LLC or business operates, near Taos or Santa Fe, it's very artistic.
Oh,
and
no,
so
that
is
totally
and
makes
so
sense.
is Sedona.
Right. Oh, all of that makes sense. It's just interesting that she's a member of that and she lives all the way out in North Carolina. So I don't know what that connection is.
Right.
But she apparently owns these properties. They're being purchased by the LLC.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, interesting. But on January 19th of 2024, so this year, at 1:17 in the afternoon, Avante called 911 and reported her 17-year-old adopted son Blake as a runaway. I have the 911 call pulled up and we can take a listen, but she mentions him possibly going to a Buddhist retreat, says she hasn't seen him since between Thanksgiving and Christmas of 2022. So let's take a listen.
Do you think he is a runaway?
I think so, but he is generally religious, and he used to go back and forth about a Buddhist retreat and meditation, things like that, but this time he never called back. And my daughter did that once for 6 months, and she called, so I thought, okay. It's hard. He's very independent, high-strung, and very bossy, so it's not really unlikely of his character, but I'm sorry, ma'am, what was your question?
Do you think he's a runaway?
I would say so, yes.
When did you last see him?
I believe when I told you during those holiday times, about a year and a half ago.
So what holiday times?
Last holiday, it was between Thanksgiving and Christmas, around November,
2023 or 2022?
Oh, goodness gracious. Maybe 22.
Wow, that's a crazy 911 call. She even references her daughter. I'm wondering if she's referencing London, saying that she's done the same thing. But she waited a year and a half, 2 years to report this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know she mentions in that 911 call that he was independent and, strong and brave and all these things. But if you think about it, when she's making this call, he's around 17 years old. So if you go back a couple of years, we're talking about a 15-year-old kid that said he's going off to a Buddhist retreat, and you haven't heard from him in a year and a half.
And you're just okay with that?
Yeah, you never thought to call before this? Super odd.
I can't imagine any parent, I'm just thinking out loud. I can't imagine any parent having their 15-year-old teenager run away from home on this, quote-unquote Buddhist retreat and not reporting them missing immediately or as a runaway immediately?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay.
And you haven't heard from him in a year and a half? Yeah. There's no concern until now. I wonder what kind of spurred her to even call 911 now. Why all of a sudden?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So that was on January 19th. So then fast forward to March 27th of this year, the Fayetteville police, along with the FBI, searched 3 Fayetteville locations as part of their investigation into the disappearance of Blake. One of those was the home of Avante. And
interesting. So they're obviously suspicious too.
Yes. I mean, something's going on. Something happened between January when she made this call and the end of March when police and the FBI are searching, these 3 locations.
Correct.
So this case is, it's odd anyway, right? The circumstances, everything about it is just strange. But then there's a lot of information too, I think, that the police have that they're just not releasing. So we don't have a ton of information to go off of. So we really just kind of have a timeline of events going forward from that March 27th date. So on March 28th, the day after they conducted those searches, the Fayetteville police issued a news release about Blake's disappearance.
Okay.
So we're at March 28th. March 30th, 2 days later, employees of Cape Fear Medical Center sent a welfare check to Avante Deven's home because they were unsuccessful in contacting her with issues related to her mother's medical care. So apparently Avante's mother is in the hospital at this time, and she is unable to make medical decisions for herself, so Avante is listed as her caregiver, and the hospital has been trying to contact her because they need someone to,
make decisions.
Give permission to do these medical procedures. And so they're unable to get a hold of her. They send someone out to do a welfare check. However, when police conduct the welfare check, nobody would answer the door. So as a result of all of this, a judge ordered Avante's mother's medical care to be overseen by DSS, and that her mother's assets were to be frozen at that time. So the judge ruled that Avante can visit her mother in the hospital, but she's not allowed to make any of her medical decisions. The judge noted that his decision was made due to information received that Avante was possibly exploiting her mother for financial gain.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on with Avante.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in this for sure. So on April 4th of this year, it was discovered that there was another missing person associated with the Deven case. At this time, the Fayetteville Police Department announced 27-year-old London Deven was also missing. London Deven was last seen alive on June 6th of 2019, but the location where she was last seen has not been disclosed.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
2 kids from the same adopted family are now missing.
And she's been missing since 2019, so 5 years, and she was never reported. And she wasn't even reported missing now.
They just learned of it.
Exactly.
Through Blake's investigation.
During their investigation into Blake's disappearance, they find out, wait a second, he has a sister, an adopted sister, who is also missing. She's an adult. I mean, she's 27 now, so she went missing when she was around 22. But yeah, interesting for sure. So on April 12th, police made an announcement that partial skeletal remains were found at an undisclosed location. They did, however, say that these remains were not located at that Berrydale Drive home where Avante is living now. Police are awaiting testing to determine the identity of the skeletal remains.
Well, that kind of makes me wonder how much of a remain there is. You know, how many skeletal bones or remains there are for them to even test.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't say.
Because you know, it's not easy. It's not an easy task to get DNA results from skeletal remains or bones. I mean, it can happen, but it takes quite a bit of a sample in order to come up with a DNA profile. So that's going to be months, if not years, maybe a year or more before they're able to even come up with a profile. And then the hard work begins, because then they're going to have to start trying to maybe talk to the bio parents or see if, you know, they're going to probably start with Blake and London's parents to see if that's a match.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of variables, I guess, that go into that. You know, how old are the remains? How long have they been there? You know, were they well preserved, or have they been exposed to elements? And, you know, who knows? All of those things are going to play into that. And
police aren't saying where they were found.
No, they're keeping all of that confidential right now.
Sure.
So on April 18th, police issued another news release asking for the public's assistance in establishing a timeline of when Blake and Deven were last seen.
Wow. So they need a timeline. So that's why we don't have a timeline.
Exactly.
A really good one, because police don't even know what's going on yet.
Right. Yeah, I know this information is kind of all over the place, but that's why, because it's been so long since they've been seen alive that nobody really knows for sure when they were last seen.
And you're right, the information is all over the place, but you know what? You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
trying. Yeah,
You're doing great.
It was a really, actually, for a Mystery Monday, you know, our typically short episodes, this one took a little bit more digging and, you know, to try to find information, because there's not a lot out there. So, yeah. Another interesting piece of information that I found, though, was that Avante also adopted 2 of Blake's biological brothers, but there's no further information about either of them. I don't know if they were older or younger or where they're at now. Right. No idea. So,
whether they're looking for Blake or whether they're missing with Blake.
No idea. So, I mean, she has at least 4 children. I don't know if there's more beyond that or not. That's the only mention of the other 2 boys. So
you know, I don't want. Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't necessarily think that's what this is. And I'm not accusing anybody of this, but it just reminds me of a presentation I watched once on like ritualistic cult abuse in foster homes and different homes. And man, that's an entirely different set of circumstances, you know. And what it basically is just these families, you know, parents are engaged in this ritualistic cult abuse, and it is a pretty daunting task for investigators to be able to come up with the charges and criminal elements in order to charge people with that. And I'm not saying that's what this is, but it just kind of eerily reminds me of the presentation that I saw on that.
Yeah. And, you know, in cases like this, it goes back to the whole, you know, she had this homeschool since 2007. So, I don't know if she had more kids before Blake and London, but when children are homeschooled like that, like there's not really a whole lot of oversight. The
Accountability, right?
The public school never knew about them. So, there was no, report or anything when all of a sudden these kids aren't coming to school or any of that because they were never enrolled in school. They were doing this homeschool thing the whole time. So there wasn't, outside of maybe family, I don't know how close the family was to say, hey, we haven't seen Blake or London in several years, but nobody said anything.
Neighborhood friends maybe, but
right.
Even then you figure, if you have kids and they're playing with, Jimmy down the street or whatever, if he just goes missing for a while, you might not even think about it. You might, occasionally say, oh, I wonder where that kid went. You used to play with him all the time, but then you move on because kids get new friends. And so you're right. There's no accountability whatsoever when they're not enrolled in public school.
And it sounds too like they moved a lot. That homeschool had several different addresses and phone number changes over the course of those, years where they were in Buncombe County, Madison County, then they moved to Fayetteville. There was a lot of movement going on too. So even if they had friends in the neighborhood, they moved. Okay, they're in a different house now. They're in, nobody's going to notice that they're missing if they don't know, that they're even there. So.
I hate to point out the obvious, but the most suspicious thing here is 2 kids from the same adopted family are missing, and there is a massive significant delay in the reporting of them as not even missing, but runaways.
Yeah, exactly. And London was never reported missing.
Right. She wasn't reported at all. She's just discovered. The police found that
out when they were doing this investigation. So she was never reported as anything, but she would have been 22. She was an adult when she went missing in 2019. But yeah, she wasn't even ever reported. So who knows how long that would have gone on before anybody realized that she was missing. It's already been 5 years and nobody knew. So. Yeah,
I think it's super, super weird. Which is why this is a great Mystery Monday episode. So, although Blake was last seen by Avante or so she reports, between Thanksgiving and Christmas of 2022, Blake is described as a white male, 5'3", 120 pounds. Obviously, his weight and his height may be different now because this was several years ago. Mm-hmm. Blake is described as having blonde hair and blue eyes, and his birth name was actually Trenton Dwayne Schuler. Blake also suffers from static encephalopathy, which is a form of brain damage related to prenatal exposure to alcohol. That's a hard word to say.
Yes, it is.
London was last seen in 2019. Her birth name was Mariah Elizabeth Foster. Mariah was removed from her home because of allegations of abuse and was approximately 22 years old at the time of her disappearance. We don't really know how old she was. She was 21 or 22. Mm-hmm. London would be 27 years old today, and unfortunately, we don't have a physical description of London, and the only photograph available that we were able to find and that's been widely shared throughout the media is a photo of London when she's 12 years old. Exactly. And so that's another curious thing. If Avante is so concerned about this child, adult now, or her adopted kid, why is there no updated pictures of when the time she was missing?
Yeah, and the same goes for Blake too. The only picture of him is from several years prior to the 2022 when he was last seen.
Yeah, he looks like a child, like a little boy in that picture.
There's no updated descriptive information, unfortunately.
Right. I'm interested. We're obviously going to follow this case, and hopefully we have answers as this unfolds. I think it's going to be probably a year or more down the road before we have more answers that we can provide an updated episode. So if you have any information about the disappearances of Blake or London, Deven, you're encouraged to contact the Fayetteville Police Department at 910-578-2697. Wow, such a crazy case.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. There's so many different news articles that just give all kinds of weird, different information that this was very difficult for us to put together. Mm-hmm. And so if you have any information, please call the Fayetteville Police Department. Or, we have actually received tips through mysteriesandmimosas.net, through our social media. So if you have any information, or if Blake or London are alive, we would really encourage you to contact us as well if you happen to hear this. Wouldn't that be great?
Absolutely.
In the meantime, please remember to follow us on Instagram at Mysteries and Mimosas Podcast. Check us out on the interweb on the web, the internet,
Yes.
at www.mysteriesandmimosas.net, and also our TikTok channel.
Yes, please follow us there.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of viewers. A lot of people love the TikTok. What? What's so funny?
You called it the TikTok.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the TikTok.
Okay.
No?
I don't know that there's a the in front of it. I think it's just TikTok.
Oh. Okay, well, I call it the TikTok. That's what I do. I post videos on the TikTok. Occasionally I get lost in the TikTok algorithm and I start just, I sit down and I start to watch one and then another one and another one. And by the time you know it, I'm late to work. Everybody's having to pick up my slack.
You can't. It's like potato chips. You can't eat just one.
No.
You can't look at just one reel or one video.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it is addictive.
Okay, you have anything else for us?
I got nothing else.
Okay, in that case, thanks for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.